The End of an Era by Scott Mason. The 2010 NFL playoffs have come to a close, and as we sit through the annual unbearable 2-week wait before the Super Bowl, we'll all have the time to reflect on the fact that in all likelihood, we've watched one of the league's most prolific passers play his last game. Sure, we thought that had been the case before, but this time it looks like it's for real. The former Super Bowl MVP and multiple-time Pro Bowler and league MVP once again defied the odds this year, having one of his finest seasons and leading his team deep into the playoffs. Though it seemed like he still had some quality football left in him, it looks like he'll choose to walk away rather than take the risk of being that guy that all football players are warned about eventually becoming, the one who hangs around too long and ultimately pays a terrible price for it. No, I'm not talking about Brett Favre. Lord knows we've got at least another 6 or 7 months of non-stop will he or won't he ESPN stories left to deal with there. I'm talking, of course, about good old number 13, Kurt Warner. With his family by his side, Warner announced his retirement on Friday, putting an end to one of the most remarkable careers in NFL history. Said Warner of his retirement, quote, "Although sometimes it doesn't look really bright and things don't go in your favor and there's moments you want to give up, I think I'm a living example that when you make yourself useful, when you continue to work hard, when you continue to believe in yourself, anything is possible." End quote. Yeah, no kidding. After all, Warner's story is so amazing, so fairy tale-like, that if a Hollywood writer had written it as a script, studio executives would have refused to greenlight it for being too corny. After spending 3 years on the bench at Northern Iowa, Warner became the starter his senior year and ended up being the Gateway Conference's Offensive Player of the Year. Despite this, he went undrafted in the 1994 NFL Draft, and although he received a tryout with the Green Bay Packers, he was ultimately released. Not wanting to give up on his dream, but needing to earn money to help support his then-girlfriend Brenda, whose parents' basement he was living in with her 2 kids from a previous marriage, Warner returned to Northern Iowa as a graduate assistant and supplemented his income by stocking shelves at a local grocery store for minimum wage. Knowing that he couldn't wait around for the NFL forever, Warner turned to the Arena Football League, joining the Iowa Barnstormers in 1995 and leading them to Arena Bowl appearances in 96 and 97. Then in 1998, his dream came true when he was signed by the NFL St. Louis Rams to be the third-string quarterback behind Tony Banks and Steve Bono. In 1999, the Rams signed Trent Green of the Washington Redskins to a big free agent contract and released Banks and Bono, leaving Warner as the backup. When Green unexpectedly tore his ACL in a preseason game, Coach Dick Vermeil was asked afterwards what he was going to do now that his big quarterback was out for the season. Vermeil then uttered the now infamous words, quote, "We're going to rally around Kurt Warner," end quote. The local media thought Vermeil was insane, and the rest of us, well, we weren't paying attention since nobody had cared about the Rams since the days of Flipper Anderson. But soon, we all cared as Warner threw for 14 touchdown passes and over 1,400 yards in just his first 4 games. We all sat back in amazement as this 28-year-old no-name took the league by storm, propelling the Rams from a joke to a real contender and prompting a picture of Warner on the front cover of Sports Illustrated with the caption, "Who is this guy?" The Rams won the Super Bowl that year, with Warner taking home both the regular season and Super Bowl MVP trophies. After a 2000 season that saw an injured Warner regress a little, and a 2001 season that won him another MVP and landed the Rams back in the Super Bowl, his career hit the skids. After 2 injury-riddled and ineffective years, the Rams released him. He went on to a forgettable stint with the Giants and 2 more forgettable years with the St. Louis Cardinals. In his 3rd year as a Cardinal, Warner split time with rookie Matt Leinart and ended up having his best year since his days with the Rams. The following year, it was expected that Leinart, a first-round draft pick and potential star, would take the starting job with Warner as his backup. But the 37-year-old Warner surprised everybody by beating out Leinart, and then he did something even more amazing. With everybody having believed that his days as a top-flight quarterback had been done for nearly 6 years, Warner once again made a fool out of every fan, pundit, coach, general manager, and pretty much anybody else that follows football for not believing in him by rising all the way back to the top, throwing for over 4,500 yards and taking the Cardinals to the first Super Bowl in team history. 2009 was another excellent one for Warner, Warner, who threw for 26 touchdown passes while leading his team to another division title. But when it was all said and done, another in a long line of concussions made Warner decide it was time to leave behind the sport he'd worked so hard to conquer against all odds, not once, but twice. Warner's retirement saddens me, not just because I'll miss watching him play, but because he's more than just a great football player. He's a great person. His foundation has raised millions for children's hospitals, single parents who needed assistance, and people with developmental disabilities. He's also donated countless hours of his own time to make personal appearances across the country to help people who desperately needed it. And that's why I'm such a big Kurt Warner fan. Not only did he refuse to quit in pursuit of his own dream, he does everything he can to help others pursue their dreams too. He didn't rely on the long arm of the government to try to force anybody to help him or anybody else. He took matters into his own hands and made a real difference in his own life and the lives of so many others. As a player, with only 5 or 6 truly elite years on his resume, whether or not Kurt Warner is Hall of Fame worthy is debatable. As a human being, however, it's not debatable at all. He's a first ballot inductee all the way.